I think our first priority has to be with the health and safety of our workers, which we have done immediately at Danone during the lockdown. The second is obviously the food supply. Right after health, food is a tremendously important topic. And I think both as companies, but also as a collective, as you form a collective in Spain, it's very important to work together in order to make sure that the food supply continues to work. I think finally ensuring that we transform the way we do business is extremely important at a moment where there will be a significant economic crisis, which will mean a social crisis. And I think it's more important than ever that when we as companies, as players in the food and retail space, we do that in a manner that is inclusive as much as possible, because the democracies will be endangered if we do not find ways, despite all the challenges, to be more inclusive in the way we deal with the social consequences and economic consequences of this crisis. Well, I think this crisis is a reflection of the way we live, the way we work, the way our economies, our societies are built. This virus has traveled with our ways of transportation. It has inserted our homes, our restaurants, our shops, because we shop this way, because we eat this way, because we interact together this way. So it's a profound crisis of the way we live. And I think we will not have a recovery, a resilient recovery, if we do not rethink our relationship to life. Not only our life, but the life in nature. This is basically a broken contract with nature. And so I think our lives, our businesses, our economies will have to recontract with nature and with life in a different manner. And it will have many consequences on the way we will have to conduct business. Climate change is happening everywhere, and agriculture and food are going to be the first industries, sectors to be directly hit, as we are already in Spain, by climate change effects, with drought, with water irrigation problems, with seeds and lack of yields anymore. But this will not happen without also more social justice. It will not happen if we are not more inclusive. And therefore, we need to connect businesses with a bigger purpose than simply making profit. Profits are necessary, but they should be part of a broader purpose for companies to serve societies. I think the big lesson is that we have built our companies, our systems, our processes for just-in-time delivery. And we forgot about just in case. And this crisis is about just in case. It's directly questioning the resilience of our systems. And again, in Europe in particular, in Spain, it worked when all the industry together was able to supply and continue to supply even during the first part of the pandemic. But there is much more to recover on this. And so I think working on the resilience of our systems, the resilience of agricultural models, the fact that food sovereignty is going to be a political topic. It's also already a social, civil society topic, is going to be very important to embark in the way the food industry and the retail industry work. It will be obvious that there are many more stakeholders now in our industry than before. Governments with their sanitary crisis, with the border closures, with a lot of changes that will make ultimately, I think, the voice for a much more localized food and agricultural model, which is basically the way Danone has always existed and actually started in Barcelona 1 century ago. We collect our milk all over the place in Spain from local farmers for our dairy factories, for instance. And I think this localization is going to be key. Maybe some companies will have the luxury of just adapt, but I think for many it will call for pretty radical changes. And I think there is a case for these more radical changes in the way we conduct businesses, because consumers, shoppers, are requesting more from their banners, their shops, from their brands. They're requesting to understand who the people are behind the brand. They want to understand how do we support them in this very difficult challenge posed by the crisis, the sanitary crisis, and soon the social crisis. So I think we should lead the way. And in many ways, organizations like yours are very well placed and can be leaders in changing the way the food and the FMCG industry works overall. I think the B Corp movement is a very important one. Danone became the first entreprise à mission in France as a listed company, large company. And we're paving that way because we believe that purpose is going to be really at the core of what consumers, civil society, governments, and even our employees will require from us. We have built for the last 50 years a global food system that is very complex and relies on only a few plants, a few varieties of animals for our food. 6 plants in total account for 75% of the total calorie intake of humankind. It's a huge systemic risk. So it's very clear for me that the resilience of the food system needs to go through the fact that we clusterize these food systems. We avoid what exactly is happening right now with the virus. Can you imagine what the effects of a virus is on, for instance, the chicken industry? If chicken industry is only about a few species of chickens with hundreds of thousands of them gathered into intensive farming, you're ruining the whole system. The same happens to pigs not long ago. And so if we want food safety and food resilience, food security, we need to relocalize the system and make sure that we valorize the local food cultures, the traditions, the diets, which are backed by local agricultural conditions, which themselves are here because, not by chance, but because this is what the climate, what the environment, what the soil health was able to provide in terms of agriculture. This is where we need to recontract with nature, a new contract in order to make sure that we work as a food industry with nature and not against or without nature. We see many changes, obviously, in the way people eat and drink, the way they shop. Obviously, digital and e-commerce is booming everywhere. Obviously, the concerns about health and the relationship between food and health is here, even more than before. Immunity, Actimel, and other brands are growing super fast. We see also people trading down in a number of categories because they fear about their revenues in the future. There are many other changes, and it's hard to say which are the ones that are going to stay and the ones that are going to disappear. But my profound conviction is that most of them are going to stay. They're going to stay because at the end of the day, they're about people discovering new realities about food. And I think with this consciousness in mind, it's unlikely that they would go back. And the second reason is because I think, unfortunately, this crisis is going to stay for long enough for people to really transform the way they live, basically. I think there is a role for leading brands to lead the way and drive the change that we know should happen in this food revolution. So I think large brands like ours have a responsibility in supporting people to adopt more sustainable diets and more healthy diets for themselves. A program that like Alimentando el Cambio in Spain that we run with Ashoka and with other civil society and public authorities is here to support empower the children with an understanding of what is better for their health and how they can balance their lifestyle and their food. And I think it's essential, in particular because related to this digital world, all these young people are masters of the social media, basically. And so I think there is really a role for large brands, again, to drive this change towards more sustainable, more safe overall for the public food security, by educating people to transform their diets. I think for an organization like yours, and with all the great companies from retail and brands around the table, this is a fantastic platform to rethink and push on these models, including advocating for the right change. And I'm privileged to have been able to spend some time with you and share some thoughts. So I really hope a very fruitful seminar to all of you. Thank you.